All right, we're not doing video. Not doing video. Okay, we're not doing the video today. All right, we're audible. We'll do it live. Just had to build it there real quick. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of TDN's live mock draft series. I am Trevor Sikkema, and with me today is a very special guest. It is the grind father, the grinder of tape. It is Kyle Krabs from the Draft Network. He is heading up our scouting department. He does an incredible job with the rest of the scouts that we have on staff to give you guys. Kyle, how many names are we up to with like full reports now on this 2021 class?
Yeah, so we're over 300 of the trait by trait write-ups, and we got another 2 weeks left before we start doing cross-checks and getting guys watching guys that weren't in their original assigned regions. So that's when the fun discourse happens, right? There's nothing better than like somebody that you respect, that you watch the same player and you come back with different takeaways on, and then it's like, explain this to me like I'm 5, right? Like, how did you see this in this guy's tape? And you have those arguments. So I'm looking forward to that in the coming weeks.
Dude, I am so impressed. It just seems like, November, October, whenever it was kind of rolling around, we're like, all right, we're getting to the end of the NFL season. College football's kind of slowing down a little bit. We're getting into final evals. And it was like, all right, you guys got final evals on the site. And it was like, oh, we got a lot of final evals on the site. Now I'm here in January. I was like, I can't find a guy that doesn't have a final eval on the site. So, I mean, like, hats off to you guys. I know that everybody really enjoys when they can see, like, what, the pros and cons of a certain player, the schemes that they fit in, what your outlook is, whether they're a starter, a franchise guy, a rotational player. And I know that's very helpful. So, of course, we're going to be going through the mock draft machine here. If you guys are running it at home, anytime you do it, if you click on somebody, you get to see all that information. But Kyle, man, I know that Senior Bowl week was very different for all of us. We unfortunately were not there in person this year, but we've seen a lot of the practice tape, which we were able to get our hands on. Obviously, watch the game that happened this past Saturday. Just want to kind of open it up to you from a scout's eye and talk about either maybe some positions or some singular guys that really, really impressed you through this Mobile week.
Yeah, I think a guy who made himself a lot of money as a mid-round guy is Demetric Felton, the running back wide receiver from UCLA. Yeah. I mean, you look at his body of work, and he had 55 catches in 2019, and then he comes out this year, and he doubles his previous career high in rushing yards, and then he played 6 games.
Not bad.
It's like he checks those boxes, and then he comes to Mobile, and he's running routes, and he's tearing guys up, and the versatility. I know the comp that was made on the broadcast was kind of that Antonio Gibson type trajectory, and I don't think he's as special of a pure athlete as what Antonio Gibson is, but kind of that similarity is a hybrid back and receiving option, and I think he's definitely one. And the pass catchers in general were the group that really stood out the most, as far as Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan, who got hot like the week before, so you knew he was going to be a guy, and then he comes in and shreds guys the way that he did. And Kadarius Toney, I know he had some struggles with consistency catching the ball, but the separation that he had was like all in. And you look at what he did with Kyle Trask when they had chemistry together, and you say, okay, assuming Toney, that route running ability, that separation ability with a quarterback that he has chemistry with, that's a really exciting kind of trajectory as well. But I thought the pass catchers in general were really the group that stood out the most.
Dude, Felton was a guy who, when I was watching him, I wasn't sure how creative they were going to get with him during the week. And they seem to, I feel like I want to give the Senior Bowl coaches credit. It feels like over the last couple of years, when there have been those tweener players, whether it's running backs or wide receivers or, like outside linebacker, pass rusher players, or more like off-ball guys, they've given them the opportunity to show their reps in those areas. Secondary players as well. If you're a safety, who's playing one slot reps, one-on-one versus guys, it feels like the coaching staffs have always done a really good job. And so I think that hats off to a lot of the staffs that have been in Mobile over the last couple of years. So it's an important time in the football calendar, even though it's a different looking football calendar. Senior Bowl week is often where everybody kind of gets all in, right? We've only got 2 teams left. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one of them. Just wanted everybody out there to be reminded of that. But there's only 2 teams alive right now in the NFL playoffs that are playing for the Super Bowl, and all the other teams, they're moving on. They're in the offseason. They're figuring out how they can get better. We're getting into draft season, so there's a lot of fan bases that are there as well. So wanted to make this one a full first-round mock draft here for the live mock draft series, and I knew that you'd be able to bring it for it. So Rob just confirmed with me that I have evens and you have odds. as we go through this first rounder. So
very easy first pick. And it's awesome.
Well, I was going to say the reason why we wanted to do this is because you have what I think is the pick where the draft really starts, but I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We'll get to that when we get to that number 3 overall pick. So I'll have you start with the Jacksonville Jaguars here at number 1 overall.
Timeout. What do we think is going to happen with Deshaun Watson?
I mean, I 100.
Is he going to get drafted on draft day, or is he going to get drafted, or is he going to get traded on draft day, or is he going to get traded before draft day?
I think that he is going to get traded well before then.
Then do we need to figure something out right now? I have a proposal. So we have Rob behind the scenes, right?
Okay. Yes.
And let's let Rob serve as Nick Caserio, right? I have a team 3 that would be interested in making an offer for Deshaun Watson. I know you have a team 8, Carolina, that's probably interested in making an offer for Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe put together a couple offers and let the Houston Texans decide who they want to trade Deshaun Watson to?
Sure. No, I think that we could absolutely set this up, because I wasn't exactly sure how you wanted to do it, because we
can't pretend it's not happening.
Right. That's the main thing is I 100% think that Deshaun is getting dealt. And I think that it's going to happen before the draft, because with this kind of trade, there's a good chance where you are going to have to base a lot of your free agency moves and the conversations that you have between March and April into either having Deshaun or not having Deshaun. So I think that Houston is in an interesting spot where they kind of control the timing of things, but I feel like it would actually be a detriment to them the longer they wait beyond free agency. So I do think that they're going to get dealt then. I would love to throw out some packages.
You also have the Jets.
I don't know if he's going to want to go to the Jets, though.
I don't think he is either, but that's what they keep talking about. So,
because that's the thing is it's like we can sit here and like if the New York Jets, if Joe Douglas was like, yeah, we're going to get Deshaun Watson, I'll give you 10 first-round picks. I'll give you every first-round pick I have for the next decade. And Deshaun goes, Nah, I'm not going to New York. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, and that's kind of the point that, I look at what happened in Houston with Jadeveon Clowney, and I've pointed to that a couple of times where they sat on Jadeveon Clowney on the franchise tag. He didn't sign his tender, and that effectively became a no-trade clause for Jadeveon Clowney. And you saw what happened when they tried to play hardball with that. They went from getting offers of first-round picks to went through the entire summer. He never signed. They agreed in principle to a trade to send him to Miami, and Jadeveon said, no, I don't want to play there. So then he ends up going to Seattle, and they got a 3 Jacob Martin and Kiki Mingo. So it's like that's the risk that you run if you're going to sit here and you're going to play hardball and be hard asses and call Deshaun's bluff, and Deshaun's like, yeah, I'm going to sit. I'm not playing games. Sorry. You're really running the risk of minimizing the return on investment because Deshaun has all the leverage right now.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse.
Right. And I think to piggyback on that, because I think that's a fantastic example, his leverage doesn't get worse. Like like from his side of things, he has already signed the contract. It's not like he's holding out for a bigger one, right? So he's already signed the deal. They are already paying him a small fortune, truly. And so there is not really a reason if you've got good offers on the table. So let's devise some good offers. You are always my resident Dolphins expert, and it's been fun to know you very well and be able to tap into your knowledge, because I feel like over the last 2 years, the Dolphins have just been such a source of whether it was a lot of draft picks or different trades here and there. What quarterback are they going to get? Now it's the Deshaun Watson thing. And so I'd love to hear, do we want to just get to number 3 and then we could talk about the trade backs? Because we're sitting here at 1. Or do you think we got to talk about
the first 2 picks? It's a formality. Okay. We don't think the Jets are going to. You and I both agree the Jets are not going to be involved. So
yeah. So you're up at number 1 because it's an odd number.
Okay. Well, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. Let's go ahead.
Wow, dude, way to go!
Already on the card.
We got hundreds of people in the chat looking for fireworks, and you're giving them. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Trevor Lawrence obviously makes the most sense at number 1. I don't think it's going to be any different. It was a little bit different when the Jets had the number 1 pick, but of course, Adam Gase can't let New York fans have anything nice. So number 2, I still think it's a quarterback. I really do.
This is a tough call, though.
I went down the rabbit hole, Kyle. I really did. Late at night, and I was sitting there thinking, yeah, but what if they trade back? You know, like what if
that roster's not ready to take a quarterback, for being honest.
No. It's definitely not. But of course, then you have to like weigh in your head, you know, you're then risking the quarterback class being not as good in the future, or who, you know, there's no guarantee. You know, you have one of the guys that you like, a Zach Wilson, a Justin Fields, a Trey Lance, somebody in hand here at number 2. Do you really want to risk all of that just for a timing sake? Because of course, even when the timing is right, the most important part is that quarterback. So I've gone through it in my head of what it could be like for them to trade back, and holy cow, it seems like they could get an awesome haul. But I will stay here at number 2. And I am going to take Justin Fields. I'll go Justin Fields here at 2. I think that athletically, talent-wise, he does give you the highest ceiling. And I think that there are certainly things that Justin Fields needs to work on, but that's the case with all of these guys. And I think that that's often an excuse that people like to make to scare him away from a guy one way or the other. And if you wanted to make Zach Wilson the pick here, which people have many times, I'm all for it. Shoot, I've had people make the argument for Trey Lance as QB2. Okay, I could see that if you're believing in the highs, but I'll still go Justin Fields as QB2 here for this draft, which then puts you up at this ever-exciting Miami Dolphins pick.
All right, so we're going to simultaneously call Houston. Is that how this works? Or do you want me to make an offer and you try and beat it, or whatever?
Can we do it at the same time? Is that a thing?
I mean, we could just kind of Houston wants my offer first, which is so anticlimactic because you're not going to beat it. I'm going to be honest.
Okay. So then let me go first. Then let me do. Yes. Let's fire up trades. Let's go to the trade. I'm going to control the Carolina Panthers because I think that the Carolina Panthers are the team that Deshaun will want to go to, that will be all in enough, if you will, to give them the correct deal. So
Dave Tepper there as the owner would definitely sign off on go get him.
The spiciest part about all of these trades, you know, whether it was for Deshaun or as we saw with Matthew Stafford last night, is like you can, as a fan or as an outsider or even as a general manager, think that you have a trade which is good value, right? You can sit here and say, you know what, I'm comfortable giving this pick, and that's what I'm comfortable giving up. But at the end of the day, if someone beats you out for them, you then are just left empty-handed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you've got teams, and I argued for a guy like Stafford, Indianapolis, Denver, these teams that could have really used Matthew Stafford, and I think really started to find a window to compete. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, they might have been comfortable saying like, all right, we're not going to go over this. But it's not just your value against what you think your value chart is. Right. You're bidding against other teams. So I think that that's obviously really big. And so for Carolina, I got to offer a 1 this year. I got to offer a 2 this year, at least. That's just in 2021, 2022. Talk about Deshaun Watson here. I probably got to offer another 1 and another 2. I mean,
I'm a little anxious right now because I don't know how much higher we're going to go here.
I don't know if they're given a 2020. Man, David Tepper would be nuts if he also gave a 2023 1.
Dante's Peak, the Texans literally said publicly yesterday they have no interest in trading Deshaun Watson. Of course, they're going to say that. But
right, yeah. Absolutely. They have. To
I have no interest in paying my mortgage next month. But you know what? You interested in paying your car payment next month, Trevor?
I'm not. No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
We like the car, to quote Casario. We have no interest in paying for the car. I think I messed that up, but whatever. So I guess I have to, like, if I'm thinking about Miami, I guess I have to add another 1. But at that point, like, you're just going crazy here. It's Deshaun, though. All right, I'm cool with it. Whatever. I've got to try to beat Miami. I've got to try to drum up whatever I can to go beat you. So now, I'll go 3 1s, 2 2s.
There is another layer here that you could go. You could offer a player.
Who would, if I'm, and I'm with you there 100%. I brought this up before. I think that they need to bring up a player, but you know, if you're the Texans, let's think about some of the young players because you're not really giving up older players. So Texans could certainly use Brian Burns if they wanted to. That's a lot for Carolina, though, if they give up Brian Burns because he's like the centerpiece of what their defense is going to be. Jeremy Chin, I don't think does anything for him. Shaq Thompson, I don't think does anything for him. I don't think Dante Jackson, even though they have a corner need, doesn't do anything for him. DJ Moore, again, like it doesn't do anything for him. Bridgewater doesn't do anything for him. McCaffrey is a star name, but it's a running back. I think that I would tell you that Burns is probably their only piece. Would you agree? What
about McCaffrey?
But what's McCaffrey's deal? Like, McCaffrey just signed a deal to be the highest paid running back over the next couple of years. So
yeah, but at least if Texans were to take him, I know they can clear up $30 million in cap space by getting rid of Duke and David Johnson and JJ Watt before. So like they can clear off some space off the books. And I know they're in tight cap space, and that doesn't even get into like Bernard McKinney, who's
okay.
They could save up to like $8 million if they chose to move on from him. But at least they're not on the hook for the guaranteed money, right? Because Carolina's already paid the signing bonus and the guarantees.
So they would give up McCaffrey.
I would whatever picks you want to leave on the table here.
If I'm giving up McCaffrey, I'm probably taking both of the second rounders off.
So 3 1s in CMC.
So like 3 1s in CMC is probably, because I'm also trying to be realistic here, right? I'm not also trying to just screw over Kyle, and make it so that the Dolphins don't get it. Even though I know
anyway, it's fine. I got it.
Well, right. It's so I'm not. I would probably take off the 2s. If I'm trying to think about what David Tepper would do, I would think that he'd go 3 1s in McCaffrey, and he'd say that's what we're giving you. And I think that would be the deal, I guess, if that's what you want to do.
Okay. So Rob, just make a mental note.
It's 3 1s in McCaffrey.
3 1s in McCaffrey. So do you want to put like 7th round picks in there to indicate like CMC and Deshaun in this deal?
Yeah. I mean, he can.
Yeah. Just so that we have like 1 for 1 on what the assets are that are going back and forth. Okay. So for Miami,
wow, the Texans would take this one.
The simulator really likes that offer, huh?
All right, so go to Miami.
My offer is it was going to be set in stone no matter what you put together. It involves a couple of players.
Okay.
And it involves some high draft picks. So if I'm Miami, I would like to offer Houston their picks back from the 2021 NFL draft. So 35. I'd also like to offer them a 1 in 2022. And I'm going to offer them a top 5 pick from the 2020 NFL draft in Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm also going to offer them cornerback who we are expecting to hold out and look for Jalen Ramsey money this offseason in Xavier Howard, who's coming off of an all-pro season. So Miami drafted Noah Igbenogany in the first round of last year's NFL draft, and they've been committed to him staying on the outside. Apparently, Xavier Howard, his agent had teased to the Dolphins without formally requesting a trade in the past 12 months, saying it might be better for all sides if Xavier was playing football somewhere else.
Interesting.
And Xavier's not happy because he's the second highest paid corner on his own team right now after they gave the big contract to Byron Jones. So the expectation is Xavier Howard's going to hold out.
Okay.
So if you have that and a player that wants $20 million per, and we're getting a different quarterback back, and the Dolphins drafted a corner at 30 that they very clearly like, and I know he wasn't very good in 2020 as a rookie, but he only played 2 years on the defensive side of the football. Rob, where would Tua go in this year's QB class grade-wise? Trevor, I'll let you answer that question. What do you think? Where's Tua stack up to like Fields and Wilson? He's not on the same level as Trevor Lawrence.
No, I would say that Tua would be, I think I'd still have Trevor Lawrence QB1, Fields 2, Wilson 3, Tua 4, but I've really got to dive into Trey Lance. I have not done enough of him. I went over him summer scouting, and it's a different lens when you do summer scouting, because it's like you think that these guys might have a whole nother year, and we're watching Trey Lance when he's 18, 19 years old. And so I would have Tua somewhere within that Justin Fields, Zach Wilson tier, but I think I would take Justin Fields and Zach Wilson above Tua.
I would say Tua and Justin Fields are like flip a coin for me personally. I would have him over Zach Wilson for me personally.
Okay.
So my offer, I'm giving one less one, but I'm giving a player in Xavier Howard who is coming off a terrific season, and we saw what Jalen Ramsey was traded for. And a top 5 pick from the 2020 NFL draft in Tua Tagovailoa as a potential long-term replacement quarterback, which would then put Houston back on the clock at 3. So that's my offer, and I'm going to let Rob choose whichever one he would want.
Okay. Man. Houston, I mean, like when I'm going back to what I offered with Carolina, I mean, Carolina would basically have to do something like that. Yeah. Who is the other player? Was it just Howard, or was there another player on there?
Tua. So it's Tua and Xavier Howard with 2 1s, Houston's original picks, and then a 1 next year.
Right. Okay. Rob said, and I quote, "I, Nick Caserio, am going to accept the Dolphins trade because I want Tua controlled for the next 4 years, and I'll use those picks to build around him." That's all, and he also says that's contingent upon trading J.J. Watt. See, and that's the tough part about a lot of different teams is Miami is in a great spot because they don't necessarily have to give all the draft capital as long as you can sell Tua. Like as long as you can still sell Tua as a potential franchise quarterback or even just like a good quarterback. That's something that is heavily advantageous to them when it comes to the Texans, because then all of a sudden, like Kyle just said, they get 3 and they don't have to pick a quarterback at 3 if they don't want. Like they could then get 3 from Miami and then trade back, like they could still trade back at that point. So there's all kinds of possibilities that open up. And then if you have 2 as your quarterback, you think it could work like that. So
for a team who has no assets at all, I think they're like, they don't have anything before 67 and they've got very little cap space to work with. So they have nothing. So if you have a disgruntled player who doesn't want to be a part of what you have, getting this kind of return, getting young players, getting picks that you can turn into more assets is just like such a home run proposition for them, I think.
Well, then if Houston's up at number 3, I would be all in if I'm the Texans on trading back. Would you? Especially,
does anybody want to call me up? Now I'm taking over Nick Caserio because I'm back in the 3 hole with the Texans.
I would do that for the Panthers again. Because I think that this is a team that has to be aggressive. Either they're getting aggressive for Deshaun or they're getting aggressive for a quarterback they're drafting up high. And there's just too many picks in between where they select right now. I guess with the Lions aren't that much of a threat, but then you got to look at the teams behind you, right? You got to look at Denver, who we know offered for Matthew Stafford. You look at Indianapolis, you look at San Francisco, you look at the New England Patriots. Like all of these teams, it's not just Falcons, Bengals, Eagles, Lions. It's all of these teams behind them too that could pop up for a quarterback. So I will offer you as Carolina. I'm gonna do a trade here, Rob.
And this is where it's just a no-brainer for Houston to do this and just lean into this and do this. Something good here.
I mean, you got to give up 8, obviously. You got to give a 1 next year. Could I get away with a 3 this year?
Oh, you stingy bastard.
Offer accepted to the green, baby.
I'll take that.
Do we think that's fair? Because like
you're giving up 2 1s to move up. You just have to worry about, the trade machine obviously thinks it's fair, but the only other team you really got to keep on your radar is San Francisco coming up from 12.
Right.
And I can tell you, for me, if I'm Houston, I want to be able to choose one of these really good offensive skill players to pair with Tua. Yeah. So if I'm going to 7, I know Philly might take one. I know Detroit might take one now that they have Jared Goff that's in the building there. As long as I'm in the strike zone to get one of the big 3 wide receivers, I'm still comfortable with where this draft slot is. If I got to go all the way back to 12, I'm not comfortable guaranteeing that I'm going to get one of these top 3 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. I think I'm with you there. That's good. All right, so let's accept the trade here.
Done.
Whoo! Feels good wheeling and dealing here on a Sunday afternoon.
So now you're on the clock, correct?
No, I mean
because you controlled Carolina, you moved up into this spot.
Yeah,
so
I mean that's
the pick.
Oh yeah,
you might as well make the pick.
I'll go Zach Wilson. Here for the Carolina Panthers at number 3. They just need to. I've written about the Carolina Panthers, I feel like, so many times this year, and they just have to get a guy. You could point to Teddy Bridgewater. You could point to some of the things that he does well, and you could look at the rest of the roster and say, look, Bridgewater is not the weakest point. Like there's other weak points to the roster, but when it comes to what you can upgrade to give you the highest ceiling, especially for where the Carolina Panthers are going, I think that this is the time. So I am up again at number 4 because number 4 is an even number. Falcons also could need a QB. I don't think it happens. I don't think that they go for the fourth out of the big four QBs, even though I would really like the idea of Trey Lance getting to sit behind Matt Ryan. I just don't think they do it. So I've been exploring some different options with them. I like the offensive line addition. I really, really do. Because if you are picking a guy like, if you think Rashawn Slater is that good here in the top 5, you could, but I'm just going to go with Penei Sewell to play on the opposite tackle spot for them. So I know, making it tough on the Cincinnati Bengals.
You just broke my heart.
Yeah, but I think that upgrading the offensive line, when you look at kind of a new regime in Atlanta, that's a great place to start. You've got to be able to do that. And I think that Atlanta, where it's not their most pressing need, it's an area of going back to that, hey, what can upgrade the most?
Asshole.
Kyle's out here pouring the whiskey already, and we're only at pick 5. So that puts you up with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, so let me think about this for a split second, because I was all in on Penei Sewell being the pick at 5.
Yeah, I bet you were.
I still think it needs to be offensive line.
I think so too.
So I'm going to be the bad. I'm going to be the bad guy that does take Rashawn Slater. I think
that's not. You're not a bad guy. I'm big on.
I like Rashawn Slater. I like him. I think he's a top 20 player in this class.
Okay, sure.
But it feels like a mid, like you got a top 5 pick. You know, like it just. I feel a little dirty staying so true to just drafting for need.
I do too, but. Is there somebody that maybe wants to trade up for Lance? Because Lance is still on the board?
Here's the problem. Cincinnati never trades down. They've never done it. Not in the first round, anyway. They are so dialed in on just, okay, we got our 1 pick. Great. We're going to make our 1 pick every year. So, like, you can make me offers, but I'm knowing the tendencies of Cincinnati, I'm not going to listen to your offers. So
you're basically saying you can waste all this time if you want.
Correct. They don't do it, so I'm not going to entertain it. Just take Rashawn Slater. Let's be done with it.
I was doing this. The other day for who was it? Oh, it was for the Giants. I was doing this for the Giants, and I was like formulating all of these plans that I had. I was like, okay, the Giants are at 11.
Sorry.
I was like, the Giants are at 11. They could move back. They don't have to take an edge rusher. They're at 11. I was like, oh, if they move back to this spot, they can get this guy. If they move back, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, the Giants could have so many good hauls if they just move back. And I just found myself on the MDM. I was like, why won't this trade go up? Like, why can't I accept this trade? And it's because Dave Gettleman's never traded down.
So that's a fun thing about MDM is we can put team tendencies in for each round, whether they're more likely to do deals. So the Giants in the first round, or just until Dave Gettleman leaves, like they're set as you can offer them anything. They're not going to trade down because they don't trade down. Gettleman doesn't do it. So sorry to hear you burn some daylight putting offers together, but.
For some people who have just joined the chat, because I see we got some more people in here. I wanted to recap what we have done already in this draft to this point, and the big one was we moved Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins. I will let Kyle recite the haul that the Dolphins gave up for Deshaun because he knows it better than me. Kyle, you can do that.
So it was 3 and 35 this year. Houston's original picks from the Laramie Tunsil deal from August 2019. A 2022 1. Tua Tagovailoa and cornerback Xavier Howard.
So giving them 2 players. One of them is a young potential franchise quarterback and then a lot of draft capital as well. And then what Houston did with that once they got Miami's number 3 pick is I moved up with the Carolina Panthers and then go select Zach Wilson. And in doing so, I gave them 2 more first-round picks, gave them number 8, and then I gave them a 3rd-rounder as well. And so, yeah. So that was the movement that we had in this draft. It's been a fun one. We're only at number 6. Philadelphia Eagles. They moved on from Doug Peterson. They made it known that they're just trying to fix Carson Wentz. They got Nick Sirianni in there, coming over from Indianapolis, coming over from Frank Reich's wing. They're just trying to help him out. I've said that this pick has to be something on offense. I know the Philadelphia Eagles have a lot of defensive needs that they would love to upgrade, but if you were going this much into we're trying to fix Carson Wentz, it basically has to be an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. That's just the way that it is. And Jamar Chase is sitting right here. I think that Jamar Chase is a good option for them. They have the other 3 wide receivers, but
it's Jamar Chase.
But Kyle Pitts.
Oh, stop it.
Kyle Pitts at 6 We could do it. Look, they're not going to have Zach Ertz anymore. They like to run the big tight ends. They can have Goddard be the main in line one. Kyle Pitts could be the complement when they want to go multiple tight end sets. He could play as a wide receiver on the outside. He could play in the slot.
Were you going to do this before Rob started circling his name with the mouse?
No. So Ben and I, when we were doing Locked On NFL Draft, we do midweek mock drafts every single week. And I did this. When was this? Was it last week or the week before? It was either last week or the week before. And I just sat there and I looked at the name and I was like, wait a second. I really like this idea. I've never done this before. And I really like this idea. So yes, I was going to do it before then. It's been in the back of my mind. And we're going to do Kyle Pitts number 6 here.
Good news for the Houston Texans, who are now going to get at least 2 out of the 3 big 3 wide receivers now staring them at the face here after trading them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Detroit. Detroit working with Jared Goff. I don't think they'll look at Trey Lance at this point in time. I know some people have suggested that Goff's presence should not preclude them from exploring a quarterback this year, but you got all these assets and you got all this long-term flexibility, and you bring in Jared Goff, and your best wide receiver under contract right now is Quintez Cephas.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, everybody's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So you as Detroit, you got to ask yourself, okay, how do we kind of rebuild the passing game here? And I'm kind of torn because if I think about the kind of receivers Jared had success with in Los Angeles, I think Devontae Smith makes a lot of sense. But if I think about Dan Campbell's impassioned speech about kneecaps, how do I not draft Jamar Chase here on the board at 7? He's physical. He's a dog. He will beat you up at the catch point. He beats you up at the line of scrimmage. Jamar Chase has to be the pick. So I'm drafting Jamar Chase.
Somebody in the comments said that they have fired me as Eagles general manager. That's fine. GM contracts are fully guaranteed. I will see you all in Cabo.
You'll have some consulting fees and work behind the scenes for a couple teams for a few years, and then you'll be back in the saddle, no problem.
Do a couple of broadcast spots, NFL Network, ESPN, whatever. Have me on, give me the expertise. I could talk about them all about how I picked up Kyle Pitts and then got fired immediately afterwards. I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller. I mean, we're just printing money at this point. It's no skin off my back. Houston Texans now finally on the clock at number 8. They moved on from Deshaun Watson, but they've got a handful of new first-round picks as well as David Howard and Tua Tagovailoa.
And this is me, right? This is me because they were at 3, and you made the pick at 3 for Carolina.
This is true. Yes. Yeah, it is you. It is you.
Okay. So I'm very well versed in all of the debates and merits around the Alabama wide receivers and Tua, and having seen every snap that Tua took and every throw he made last year. And I think Houston, Brandon Cooks is another name to kind of circle as a potential cap casualty. I think they could save somewhere around up to $12 million. And if they get rid of Randall Cobb after June 1st, it's something like $8.5 million they can save off the cap for him too. So I want to get wide receivers, and Will Fuller's in a contract year, so he's up for free agency.
Right, he can be gone too.
So wide receiver is going to be a home run option here, and pairing Tua Tagovailoa with his top target, the target he had the most chemistry with in Devontae Smith. This feels like the right kind of range for Devontae Smith. There's this debate about, do you take him at 3 if you're the Dolphins? I think this is kind of the sweet spot to start taking these wide receivers, is outside the top 5.
Mm-hmm. We
saw that last year. We didn't have a receiver go in the top 10, and there were some
wide
receivers. So it's just kind of, you have to be really special to get the call that early. So because I'm sitting here at 8, I feel a lot better about Devontae Smith being the pick, reuniting him with Tua Tagovailoa as a part of the trade that sent Deshaun Watson to Miami. Boom. Let's lock it in, Devontae Smith.
Okay. All right. Devontae Smith going 8 as wide receiver 2. I'm with you. You're back on the clock here at Denver, but I wanted to point out that we right now are running a lot of mock draft simulations that have a lot of wide receivers going in the top 12. Like, you would be hard to find a mock draft that has any of the big 3 wide receivers getting outside of the top 12. And it just doesn't happen like that. It's just, we don't see that all the time. And I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go outside of that, because I do plenty of mocks in which that's the case as well. But in the back of my mind, I'm always telling myself, man, we had one of the most, like, what we were told was one of the most talented wide receiver classes of all time. Yeah, it was deep. Maybe, okay, it didn't have the Julio Jones at the top or the Megatron at the top or whatever, but we didn't get a wide receiver go in the top 10 last year. And so why would 3 go in the top 10 or the top 12 this year? It just, it would be drastically different than everything.
With an equally deep class.
Right.
This class is just a deep wide receiver.
Right. So. Right. So you're up at 9.
I anticipate Denver is going to make this at least somewhat of a conversation because Von Miller, they get a club option. He's in some legal trouble where they're kind of investigating some off the field stuff for him this offseason that appears, at least according to accusations, to be pretty serious. I don't expect, even without the off the field stuff, that he was going to be back next year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So from a cap perspective, obviously he's coming off the injury, club option, all those things kind of added up. I think Denver can really make the most of that cap space if they kind of transition away from Vaughn.
So I was one of the people who looked at Denver's situation this offseason and thought they're at a tipping point one way or the other. I believed that if they would have been able to get Matthew Stafford for even number 9, trading 9, and what I said was 9 and either a 3rd rounder or a 4th rounder. Mm-hmm. This is obviously like a week ago. I was like, if you give up 9 and you give up also a 3rd and a 4th, and you go get Matthew Stafford, then all of a sudden you could bring back Von Miller, you could re-sign Justin Simmons, and you can kind of have this push towards, you basically have the next 3 years to go.
It's a win now window.
Yeah. Right. And if they would have gotten Matthew Stafford, they would have been able to put themselves in a position, because then, like, you go draft a corner, an offensive lineman in the 2nd round, like, you beef that up a little bit. You make some splashes at linebacker if you want an upgrade there, but you bring back Shelby Harris, and, like, all of a sudden, like, secondary is pretty good. Linebacker is fine. Front 4 could be great if you bring Von Miller back. Offensive line's all right. Young wide receiver core is getting even better. You have Courtland Sutton, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have KJ Hamler, you have Tim Patrick. You've got 2 young tight ends who could really stretch the field vertically. All of a sudden, if you put Stafford onto that team, they ain't bad. They're not going to beat the Chiefs, which are also in their division, which sucks. But if they would have gotten Matthew Stafford, I think it's a little bit different. But without Stafford, I could see what you're saying, where you're trading, you might be cutting Vaughn, you're moving on, you're going towards the rebuild mode.
So Trey Lance is on the board. Don't want to overlook Trey Lance as a quarterback. But I got a player here I really like, and James in the comments is going to be real disappointed because Patrick Surtain II, putting him into Vic Fangio's defense is a really exciting proposition as far as I'm concerned. Nice. And they had needs at corner coming into this offseason, and Isaac Yiadom stepped in and did a nice job. Not Isaac Yiadom. Who was the 3rd rounder from Iowa this year?
Michael Ojemudia.
Yeah, Ojemudia. Yeah. Ojemudia did a nice job this year as a rookie. So getting Surtain here at 9, it's a premium position. Denver needs help there. He's the best player available at the position. He's super pro ready coming out of Alabama. I think that's a no-brainer. So give me Surtain at 9 to Denver.
Well, Dallas out here pissed because that's who I would have.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it stink to get sniped right in front of your spot? I bet it does.
Well, at least I have a little bit of a backup plan because I'm going to take Jalen Watt. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
They're just going. They're going no fewer than 4 wide every play. No fewer. You know what? Actually, now that I'm saying I'm not picking an offensive lineman. This is a decent spot for Rashawn Slater as well. I really like Slater if he makes it to 10, which he often does, because this is an area where, yes, I still think that Dallas has a lot of talent on the offensive line, but we saw how, some guys getting injured a little bit more in the later parts of their career. They've got to start thinking about guys to fill in and have rotators and spot starters, if you will. And Slater's a player who I have faith in to be able to play guard and tackle at a really high level. And so I like Slater here, but Slater's obviously not on the board. Who is on the board, though? Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech. I think that this is a big area where they need to upgrade. You got to ride with Trayvon Diggs a little bit here. And so you got him on one side, and you have Caleb Farley on the other. Farley's a former wide receiver, so he's still learning the ropes of corner, but it's a major need that Dallas has to attack. You don't always have to do that in the draft, but I feel like this is the right spot for them with the board the way it is.
Which I am super thankful for, because you teased about taking Jalen Waddle at 10 to the Cowboys. He's the pick 11 to the New York Giants.
Yeah.
I came in and said, if I can get either Waddle or Kyle Pitts, I'm going to go that route. So to have Waddle on the board, and this kind of fell in line with what you said, it's seeing all of these guys consistently go in the top 10 or top 8 is really rare versus what the reality of the NFL draft is, regardless of positional value and how good these guys are relative to the rest of the names in this year's class. So Giants, you think about Waddle and Daniel Jones and how he's really good in some of the quicker stuff and getting the ball out of his hands, and putting Waddle into that kind of role for that offense, I think makes a ton of sense.
San Francisco is up here at number 12. Trey Lance is still here. And I'm not so sure it works out like this, but
they got to be thrilled that it does here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking Trey Lance. I'm getting Trey Lance to work behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And look, if they believe in Trey Lance enough to start him day one, you could probably move on from Garoppolo and get a decent pick in return for him. What you don't want, I guess, if you want value for Garoppolo, is you don't want to start him this year, see that he's kind of meh, like he's always been, and then you replace him, and all of a sudden, like, you're trading him for like a 6th-round pick or something. If you believe in Trey Lance to start him enough, Trey Garoppolo now, not physically now in present day. I'm saying now, like either day 1 or day 2 of the draft. Like, don't get out of draft weekend with him still on your team if you believe in Trey Lance enough. And so I don't think it's going to work out quite like this for the 49ers, but Trey Lance is still here at 12, so I'm taking it.
So Chargers at 13. I got it written down in Sharpie. Offensive line, no matter what. Let's take care of Justin Herbert.
Yes.
So you got a couple offensive tackles. Cosmi, Darrisaw. I don't think there's any interior guys that are really going to move the needle for this point in the draft. Varick Tucker, who played tackle for USC this past year and has shown he can play inside or outside. For the Chargers, Cosmi, I think, kind of fits their profile a little bit better. I'm not crazy personally, but if we're trying to project into, what these teams' mentalities are, I think Cosmi, he had a much better year this year as far as consistency, in my opinion, at the point of attack. The Chargers have kind of gone after big, long, big-bodied offensive tackles that need a little bit of development. They've been comfortable. Telesco's been comfortable with those kinds of players in the past. Mm-hmm. They just haven't invested in them early. But Cosmi sitting on the board here, I think he fits their profile. So he's going to be the pick to be Justin Herbert's new left tackle at 13.
I don't know if Cosmi's going to go that high. I liked him during summer scouting, and I liked him in the bit that I've already watched of his tape this year, but like we mentioned before, almost kind of continuing the wide receiver conversation, trench guys always get prioritized around a lot of other players that we might think might be a little bit better in this class, just because it's pass rushers, pass protectors, and passers, quarterbacks. Yeah. And so, I guess I could see it. I'm not so sure he goes this high, but I do like Cosmi, and I think that you're right about tendencies with the Chargers, no doubt. The Minnesota Vikings at 14, the defensive line here. Kwity Paye still on the board, getting him on one side, getting Danielle Hunter on the other. I think that's, I don't want to reach for an interior offensive lineman like you were mentioning with the Chargers. They could certainly use that spot. I think that the Vikings can as well, but they can upgrade it later. And if you've got Kwity Paye still on the board, if there is an edge rusher that hasn't been taken yet, and you get your pick of anybody who's in this class, I think that they would like that, and I think that they jump at that opportunity. So I'll go Kwity Paye here to play opposite Danielle Hunter for the Minnesota Vikings.
He had a great year. He came out gangbusters against Minnesota and had like 3 sacks in that game, and he was awesome in that game. So New England at 15.
That man, I watch his tape, and it's like you're watching somebody go straight up against a concrete house. He seems like the most dense defensive end I've ever seen.
I had somebody text me and was like, man, I get some, and I'm not there yet. But I had somebody text me and say, man, I get a little bit of the Khalil Mack type vibe there as far as his build, his stoutness getting into fits and stacking up blockers. He took the step forward that we were waiting on from a pass rush perspective this year. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think at 14, it's a great steal for Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. You up at 15 with the New England Patriots?
I am. And I'll tell you, I'm heartbroken because I don't really like any of my skill player options. But the good news for the Patriots, they are effectively starting blank slate. They got a ton of cap space.
Yeah.
They can remodel this roster in whatever way, shape, or form that they want to. But I look and see Micah Parsons on the board at 15. And Parsons, it kind of feels like best player available, which New England has done a lot of. Him being a player who has so much pass rush experience. He was a pass rusher coming out of Bishop McDevitt, or it was Harrisburg, I think. He's Central PA kid. And he was an edge rusher coming out before he committed to Penn State and then transitioned to off-ball linebacker. But Penn State still used him as a pressure player and playing forward and being an attack player. And you think about the Patriots and what they have in Donta Hightower, and are they going to want to continue to work with Donta Hightower if they're hitting reset or reloading / rebuilding versus what they could potentially save in cap and get more assets if they moved him. Micah Parsons here is just pure best player available. And I wish there was a skill player that I really love that I would want to take. But the only skill player that they're set at is running back. So we're not going to go with either Etienne or Najee Harris. They got so many bodies there that they'll by committee fill that out. So I'll make Parsons the pick at 15.
I mean, I don't hate it. Parsons has had an interesting, I guess, couple of months when it's come to like mock draft machine projections, because we had him going potentially as high as number 3 overall sometimes in the mock drafts that we've been running. You know, Detroit was a very hot spot for him when Patricia was still there, but now Patricia back in New England, working with New England again for as multiple as they like to keep things. I think that, shoot, if Parsons makes it to 15, I know they got Hightower, but they use their linebackers in a lot of different ways, and I think they use Parsons a little bit different, and they could make both thrive. So, yeah, I think that this is a decent landing spot for a guy that a prospect like Parsons is, and everything that he can do. Arizona Cardinals. All right, we're about halfway through this mock. Probably got to pick it up a little bit, but Arizona Cardinals at number 16. JC Horn's still there. I think this is it. I think it's got to be JC Horn. Joseph Osai, though. I like Joseph Osai. I like taking some pressure off of Chandler Jones.
Give my guy Vontel Travis Etienne. I know you're not going to do it, but I would. He slacks me. He tweet DMs me. He tweets me every single time I make a pick for the Cardinals and a loser running back, and he is so angry. So I'm like morally obligated to at least mention with the Cardinals on the clock that like Etienne's a possibility.
Does he want Etienne over Najee Harris?
No, he does not want running back at all. I think he'd rather take like a long snapper in the first round over taking one of these running backs in the first round. But like he tweets me every single time, so I'm like obligated to mention it.
Okay, so I'm not going to. All right, Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams, then. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I'll go JC Horn here. I think that they certainly need cornerback help. Patrick Peterson's obviously still there, but how much longer is he going to play at an elite level? They need somebody on the opposite him anyways. Yeah, I'm going JC Horn here.
Okay, so Raiders 17. Mm-hmm. Our executive producer has told us to move our asses a little bit, so we're gonna.
Yes, he often does.
Okay, well that makes me feel better. The Raiders, they spent a ton of money.
It's not just you.
They spent a ton of money on the linebacker position this offseason, and they got nothing from it.
Yeah.
So you think about the Raiders and what kinds of players that they really like. They like high energy, leadership, blue collar, senior programs. So they like the big program players. I can check enough of those boxes with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at the linebacker position. You know, they got a striker in John Abram at safety. He's a striker at linebacker. He can play in space. He might be a safety. I like him at will. I think you can play him in that attack kind of blitz type role in a will. And I think he's got enough in pass coverage. He can't be any worse than what the Raiders linebackers were in pass coverage between Corey Littleton, who they spent a ton of money to be a coverage linebacker. Yeah. And then they traded for Raekwon McMillan at the start of the season, and he ended up stepping into the inside linebacker role towards the back end of the season. And those two guys are just abysmal in coverage. I think Owusu-Koramoah can give you pressure on third down. I think he can give you coverage on third down. He's all over the place. He's a rangy guy. He's a plus athlete. He comes from a big program. Let's check the box.
Okay. All right, we're checking the box. Giving him Owusu-Koramoah. I think it's going to be some sort of like, I honestly believe that the Raiders' dream prospect is Kwity Paye. I don't know if he gets to 17, but like I think that he is basically their dream prospect. I think they think about Joseph Osai as well, but
he's the explosive Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what they're trying to get here. They drafted Cleveland Farrell at 4, correct?
4.
4.
And I like Cleveland, so this hurts me to talk about.
I remember we were on the desk in Nashville doing the live mock draft. And I remember your reaction. You were just like, there's no way they took this guy at 4 because you actually
I liked him. And I was like,
there's
no way they took him at 4.
Yeah, that was a little rich. So, all right, Miami Dolphins are up here at 18. You can help me out a little bit with this because this is your area of expertise. We already have Deshaun Watson on the squad. Tua Tagovailoa is out. They also don't have a first-round pick next year.
And they also don't have 35.
Right. So they don't have that top of the second round pick, which goes a lot into it strategizing this pick here. They also lost Xavier Howard, so they don't have another corner there. But as Kyle pointed out when we went through these trades, they do have no Abe Benogany. So it's not like they're desperate to go get somebody on the outside here. 18.
I'm seeing if I have something to write on. I don't think I do. I was just going to write it on a card and hold it up for you. But
the name that you want?
Yes.
Can I guess it?
Yes.
Is it the man of magnificent thighs, Najee Harris?
Especially because they don't have 35 to try and get one, either him or Javonte Williams at 35. Yeah. Right. I mean, they desperately need help in the running game, and they got some youth on the offensive line. So you get a 230-pound back who's just as athletic, if not more athletic, than the 200-pound back that was back there last year. Mm-hmm. You can make some stuff happen.
Look, I am not going to sit here and toot my own horn, but I am.
Go ahead.
About 2-3 weeks ago, Ben and I started having the conversation on Locked On NFL Draft, and I'm sure that you guys have had the Najee Harris conversations as well, where we are obsessed with saying, don't draft running backs in the first round. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm just letting y'all know it's going to happen. Like we're right. with especially with Najee Harris, it is much more likely that Najee Harris goes between pick 15 and 25 than it is he doesn't go in the first round. I really do genuinely believe he's going between picks 15 and 25. I'm just not sure which team's going to do it, who might move, like where there might be movement in the draft. And I have no problem taking Najee Harris at 18 because it's something that I believe is going to happen, especially for Miami to make the moves that they did, where it's like they add Deshaun, now they add Najee. Look, man, those are two incredible offensive additions. So, yeah, I'm all for it there.
All right. Very good.
And so,
yeah, and the conversation with Dolphins fans is, do you take him at 18? Do you risk waiting? I'm sitting here looking at the Jets and the Steelers at back-to-back picks who need a running back. Mm-hmm. And I know the Jets have a ton of needs, but those two landmines, you got to run the risk of him getting past those two if he's going to get there at 35. And now the Dolphins don't have 35 in this scenario. So it's a no-brainer, in my opinion. I think it's a great pick.
19, Washington.
How do you say this username, Trevor?
Newman.
Newman. I'm just going to call you Newman. 67. I think Washington should go Darisaw. I think you're right. So they took Sadiq Charles. They obviously traded Trent Williams last offseason during the draft and took Sadiq Charles as a mid-round pick, and Jerron Christian's there on the roster. They got some candidates, but Christian Darisaw, the way he's one of the biggest examples of why this 2020 college football season was so important. Because coming into the year, he was a toolsy guy, but he wasn't the Christian Darisaw that we saw on tape all year long. So right. Washington, you need a quarterback. I'm not going to force one here for Washington. Mm-hmm. Christian Darisaw, he can really help continue to amplify your strengths in the trenches, which is the identity of this team. Make Darisaw the pick from Virginia Tech. He's going to Washington.
Now, we're starting to have some interesting conversations between 19 and 24, right? Because you have Washington, you have Chicago, you have Indianapolis, you have Pittsburgh. These are all teams that need a quarterback. And Josina Anderson reported last night when the Matthew Stafford stuff was going down that an NFL, was it exec or head coach? I can't remember. There was a source, right, that came out and said the Washington offer was better than the Rams one. And they were saying that from the point of view that, okay, if the Washington football team if they would have taken their deal, they wouldn't have had to take on Goff's contract. So I'm not sure that Washington would have been out here offering 2 first-round picks. But with that being said, with Washington's offer being named by name,
they're in the market.
They're going to get aggressive. And I think that Ron Rivera knows that has to be the case. And so I don't know if they sit here at 19, but I don't know who's going to be where. Rob said Cam Newton to Washington could be a potential, obviously, with Ron Rivera there. I guess they don't have anything else to do there.
Why, though?
There's only so many rookie quarterbacks to get picked, and it's going to be for a fun offseason anyway. Chicago Bears, I am tempted to take Mac Jones because I think that it's in the realm of possibility, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think. I think I'm going to go with Elijah Vera Tucker. Rob is
trenches.
Rob is screaming at me to go.
I read that like Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Just do it.
No, we got plans for Mac Jones. Don't you guys worry. Just give me a couple minutes. We got plans for Mac Jones. So, but I'm going to go Elijah Vera Tucker here for the Chicago Bears. I think he's got a lot of inside-out versatility. He could play guard. He started a guard before. He played tackle. He played tackle this year. And so I think it's a good investment for them. They got to do something at quarterback too. They're in a similar spot to Washington, but I won't go quarterback here. I'll go Vera Tucker.
So you're teasing in a few minutes. You got some big plans for Mac Jones, huh?
Oh, no.
No, you don't, because Mac Jones is gone.
Dang,
making the pick here in Indianapolis at 21.
I'm sorry, Steelers fans. I tried. I tried.
It's a quarterback. They need a quarterback. Phillip Rivers, he's off into the sunset. We wish him well. One of the most productive passing resumes in the history of the NFL. So props to Phillip.
Yeah.
Second best quarterback to not win a Super Bowl, maybe. I don't know. Dan Marino. So Colts obviously have a need at quarterback. Mac Jones was a big winner this past week in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. Let's make that pick happen. They've shown they're comfortable with a traditional style pocket pass.
Mac's stock has just been, and you would be able to speak to this even better than I, but before the season, I felt like Mac Jones was kind of like an afterthought. Like he was just the next guy in between whoever was going to be between Tagovailoa and God, I can't remember who's the 5-star kid's name. Rob knows this. That's it. Something Young. Bryce Young. Yeah, it was Bryce Young. Yeah, it was so like Mac Jones was just supposed to be this bridge between Tagovailoa and Bryce Young, and all of a sudden it's just as the year went on, he just continued to rise. Yeah, right. So now I think he's in that first round conversation. I'm not saying that this pick couldn't happen because it very well could, because you laid out exactly why the Indianapolis Colts need a quarterback. The one thing that makes me hesitant for Mac Jones and Indy this late in the draft is because Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, has said before that the second he invests a first round pick, or like a high pick, I think he said, into a quarterback, that's when his clock starts. That's when his hourglass gets turned, right? Because then if you don't succeed with the quarterback, you might be out. So he's done
such a nice job with the rest of the roster, though. Yeah. It's like you've seen guys who can pivot off of that if you stay in contention. Ryan Pace. What better example than Ryan Pace?
I'm totally with you. I really am. But I just wonder if he believes what he said there. Would he make the first round selection on that turning of the hourglass, Mac Jones? Not so sure. Would he do it by trading up into the top 10 and getting one of the 4 big guys? Yeah, I think he can do that. But I wonder with Mac Jones. Anyways, I do think that Mac ends up being a first round pick. I think we're probably going to get 5 when it's all said and done. Tennessee Titans. That was a long way to introduce.
So Tennessee Titans. Yeah. They didn't really get their bang for their buck for Jadeveon Clowney, who they brought in. And I'm seeing a name here. Mm-hmm. Well, not here, because Rob's got quarterbacks up. He's trying to tempt me into Kyle Trask to replace Ryan Tannehill. It's not happening, Rob. I'm seeing a name here in Gregory Rousseau from the University of Miami.
Wait, I'm up with Tennessee.
You are up with Tennessee.
No, keep talking. I love what you were saying. Keep going. Keep doing it.
No, go ahead. Finish my thoughts then.
Okay. All right.
Great minds think alike. The saying is true after all.
I think that they do need somebody on the edge to complement what they have in Harold Landry. And they also get a lot of versatility with Gregory Rousseau, because he's a player that, man, not this past year because he opted out, but the year before when he had 15.5 sacks, there were times when he was lined up as a 1 tech, as a 3, as a 5, as a wide 9. I mean, they put this guy everywhere. And I had the chance to actually sit down and chat with Gregory about a month ago. We have that over on our YouTube channel.
Great interview. You did a great job with that.
Yeah. I appreciate it. We had a lot of fun with it. He's a great dude. He talked about, what he had to do to put on weight coming out of high school, the positions that he played in high school, what he had to do to kind of like grow into his body a little bit, how he is still doing that going into the NFL. He talked about the positions that he liked to play and even went on the edge, whether he liked it better as a 3-point rusher, a 2-point rusher. So he talked about a lot of different stuff and his versatility there. I really do like the idea of it, putting him in a Mike Vrabel defense where he gets to be on one side, Harold Landry gets to be on the other, but maybe more importantly than that, Jeffrey Simmons gets to be in the middle. And I think that there's still picks outside of number 22 here where later in the draft they can complement another guy right next to Jeffrey Simmons and all of a sudden have a stout, young, fierce defensive line. And I really like the idea of that. And so I'll go with Gregory Rousseau here at 22 to the Tennessee Titans.
So the only other thing I'll add was on my punch list, and then I realized I'm an idiot. And it's
okay. No, you gave me the lob. You lobbed it up there. You were Dwayne Wade, and then I was just LeBron in the background, one arm out. Right.
Imagine this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Titans stack another 20 pounds on Rousseau. Okay, so now he's 285. Okay.
Oh man, it's a lot of pizza.
You go Jeffrey Simmons.
All right.
Gregory Rousseau.
Okay.
Harold Landry on one half of your line.
Okay.
Are you in or are you out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're getting the kid to 285.
He's got the frame though. That's the crazy thing. He reminds me of kind of Calais Campbell with his, and Calais with what his potential could be as an inside guy, as a B gap guy. How do you not love the potential? And he's playing at 265. I thought from a leverage and functional strength perspective, he's okay. He really flashed in penetration roles versus when he was trying to stack guys up and use his hands.
Sure.
But if you can get this guy with a little bit, even if it's 10, 15, where you're comfortable playing him in the B gap on some of your early down stuff, or if you want to play him there on 3rd and 15, even. I think he has enough versatility. He can play early and late downs in the B gap. And that's, for Tennessee, kind of Vrabel, Belichick, disciple style defense. How do you not love it?
I would be willing to see what he plays like between 270, 275. I'd be worried that'd be a little, I'd be worried that even that might be a little too much, only because he came from a background in which he was playing at such a lighter weight. You know what I'm saying? Like if maybe when he was in high school or when he showed up to Miami, he was like a little bit bigger than that, I might have some faith in it, but I think, hold on, now I got to look at his recruiting profile.
Well, while you're looking it up, I'll say this. It's a really good example of like mental reconditioning for players, right? Like Rousseau came in and he was mentally conditioned to be a finesse football player because of whatever his stature was when he got in Miami. I know he was light. He was probably like 220, 225 pounds.
He was 222 is what they have him listed at, which makes me think that he was closer to just 220.
So if you can rewire him to kind of, and I thought that was an issue that in Miami that, once he gets more coaching and if he gets to be in more of that presence of mind of, I'm so long and explosive and quick twitch, and I'm 270 pounds, I think it'll really take his game to the next level. So I think there's a lot to work with there. And the Titans with Vrabel are the kind of coaching staff that I would trust to get him there.
Sure. No, look, if anybody's going to pack some pounds on somebody, it's going to be Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel, in fact, is going to be in the weight room right next to him. He's just going to be matching whatever weight Gregory Rousseau does. So, okay, now you are up with the Jets at 23.
Okay, so the Jets 23. Their first round or their first pick at 2, you made Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin Fields.
Justin Fields.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to think of stylistically what receiver I think best fits his strengths.
Chris Olave, please.
Chris, why did you go back?
Chris,
I'm still angry about it.
I don't know, man.
He was so good for you. You want to go get your degree. You feel like you've got unfinished business at Ohio State. Like, who are we to tell you not to?
Right.
But he could have legit been a first round pick this year.
I know.
He was that good.
He's trying to do the Devontae Smith thing where he was like a fringe first rounder, maybe. And then Devontae came back and won a Heisman. But Olave's situation is obviously very different because he has a brand new quarterback coming in. And obviously he's still playing next to Garrett Wilson and Rutgers going back. So, yeah. I'm
still mad about Rutgers going back, too.
Yeah, big sad.
He's another good football player, even though they don't throw to him there. So, Rob, can you pull up wide receivers? He said, I surely can.
I was good. You just sounded just reluctant. Like, all right, fine. Let me look at this.
He was so quick with the mouse. He's like, come on, guys, let's go. I got stuff to do. I got Allman Brother tickets. You know what I mean?
That's forgetting Sarah Marshall. That's forgetting Sarah Marshall. When he's like, Oh, you wanted dark and ominous. Okay. So off the rails.
You're not getting paid for tonight's session, right? Yeah, I know.
There was a time where you wore sweatpants every day, which is actually just, what we all do now in the pandemic.
Sean Johns. I think Rashad Bateman has the best style of play that can complement Justin Fields, because so much of what Ohio State did was spacing and RPOs, right? And I look at Rashad Bateman, his resume, the glance slant, running into the middle of the field, kind of running around that hook curl defender, catching that ball in stride. And you think about what Justin Fields can do with ball handling at the mesh point and his ability to throw from altered arm slots and his athleticism. And I think Bateman's really an underrated run after the catch guy. And he's a little bit bigger than some of the other Yak guys that we're looking at here with Tony and Rondale Moore. And the more I watched Rashad Bateman, the more I liked him. And I think that's a fit that I can really get behind with Justin Fields. If you would have picked Zach Wilson, maybe my answer would be different. But because I want to build the best supporting cast I can around Justin Fields, Rashad Bateman's going to be the pick at 23.
I like Bateman. People are gonna be worried because he's not the top tier athlete that I think other wide receivers might be that you pick in the first round. And so people might look at Bateman, they're like, okay, I'd be comfortable picking him in the second or third. But it goes back to almost the trade scenario. Are you going to sit here if Bateman's a guy that you think makes your football team better and you're just going to risk not picking him for a full round? I don't think that happens. And so if you're sitting here in your Jets and you want to get better at wide receiver, you think Bateman's your guy, Bateman's your guy. Pittsburgh Steelers, this would have been Mac Jones, but here we are. Mac Jones not on the board. I think offensive line's probably the pick for him. Who we got here?
A lot of good options. There's a lot of good options here on the offensive line.
Tevin Jenkins, Alex Leatherwood. I feel like Steelers fans are big on Alex Leatherwood right now. I feel like that's the hot mock draft pick for him.
Did not have a great Senior Bowl.
No.
I would have loved to have seen him on the inside, but he only played tackle all week. And
I guess good for him because he's kind of making the notion this like, I'm a tackle because he wants to make tackle money and, go out, get your money. I'm all for it.
Yeah, but getting drafted in the early 2 as a guard, you're going to get paid more than getting drafted in the 3rd as a tackle.
I don't know if he goes 3rd as a tackle. I feel like there's been too much smoke, if you will, for the fire that the NFL likes Leatherwood as a potential first rounder. I feel like that we've seen that too much. Can you just go to offensive tackle, Rob? Just overall. Stop telling us to draft Kyle Trask in the first round. It's not going to happen.
Steelers fans asking for Trask.
Jalen Mayfield, Trask is. I can't see the chat right now. So if people are actually asking why Kyle Trask wouldn't go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't think Trask going in the first round. I don't even know if Trask going in the second round. Like I don't think he has the arm to be an NFL starter. And when you were talking about investing a top 50 or a top 64 pick, one in the first 2 rounds into a quarterback, it's got to be somebody who you have upside to think is either, of course, a franchise quarterback when you're picking higher in the draft, a solid starter, at least a potential starter. And I don't know if that's Trask. I don't think that he has the arm talent for that. I think he's got rare touch. I think that he's able to place the ball in some really unique places. And when he's got good rhythm and timing with his wide receivers, I think that that's something he can do. But in terms of zipping the ball in there in a football-sized window, if you will, and the separation only gets harder in the NFL, and then throwing deep balls in a row 45, 50, 55 yards down the field, that's not Kyle Trask. It's just not. And I'm not so sure that the NFL is going to be buying into him being a franchise quarterback. That's kind of what I think.
Can I say this real quick, too, about Trask specifically?
Of course.
So we really don't see the ceiling as far as being able to extend plays with your legs. And so then you ask yourself, okay, he's got a baseline NFL arm, and he's not a plus athlete. He's got prototypical size.
Mm-hmm.
If you're picking a quarterback, you either feel this guy can be your franchise starter or you can't. And if you don't feel like he can't, then why are you investing a top 64 or a top 75 or a top 100 pick in a guy that you feel like can't be an NFL starter? Because, where's the traits that Trask hangs his hat on? He's good within the structure of the offense, and his accuracy, like you said, his ball placement has some really appealing skills. But if he doesn't have high-level arm strength, so he can't reach all levels of the field. And any level of pressure is really going to sap the velocity on his ball because he doesn't have a naturally strong arm. Where is the ceiling for that player in the first round? And if he's not in the first round and you look at the traits, why would you draft him anywhere further in that, top 64, top 75 range? Because that just feels like if you felt that convicted to draft him with how important that position is, you should have drafted him earlier.
I think that there is something to throwing certain draft picks and flyers at quarterback if you need to, like if you need that to be the case for your franchise. But I also certainly think that there is something to don't just waste draft picks on quarterbacks because they're quarterbacks. If you don't think this guy can be a franchise quarterback, don't take him high. Like, don't take him with one of the first two picks. I just don't know if Trask will convince a team that that's the case. I wouldn't draft him until rounds 3 or 4, probably early day 3. I mean, maybe in round 3, depending on your situation. But I don't think he's a full-time starter for you. I think he's a spot starter. I think he'd be a great backup for a long time in the NFL just because he can come in and give you those unique accuracy touch passes. And I think that can stick around and have a really long NFL career. I just don't think you're going to get many, even if one franchise to invest in him is like a full-time, like Trask is our guy kind of a starter. I don't know. That's kind of someone who comes from watching his entire situation in every game he ever played at University of Florida. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't think it's happening at 24. I don't even know if it happens in the second round. I'm going to go offensive line here. I'm going Tevin Jenkins. I'll go Tevin Jenkins to play on the outside.
We spent a whole lot of time building you a bridge to go zag when we thought you were going to zig this whole time with Leatherwood.
No, not doing it. I'm gonna let Leatherwood drop, and I'm gonna go Tevin Jenkins, who had a really nice year for Oklahoma State, because I'm kind of with you there. It's not exactly the same conversation with Kyle Trask. I think it is a little bit different. Well, it's certainly a little bit different with Leatherwood. But when I was watching him at the Senior Bowl, I just felt like he was getting attacked on the outside shoulder a lot. Like, speed was getting him. If he was having to set and to step like really deep into the pocket and take guys deep around the edge and form a pocket against these speed rushers, it's almost kind of like he just like couldn't keep up or he wasn't comfortable with it. And at the same time, I'm not going to draft an offensive tackle that can't handle speed. You've got too many freak athletes that are playing on the edge in the NFL. Well, always, but you've got too many guys who can get around the edge. And especially with speed specialization players, if I get a guy who I know can attack your outside shoulder and win that way, I'm going to do it. I just can't be drafting an offensive tackle who might be a liability in that area. And I'm not fully saying that, like, just Senior Bowl week, I'm totally out on Alex Leatherwood. I'm just kind of questioning it right now. So I'll go Jenkins here for the Steelers.
Okay. So Jacksonville at 25, their first round pick was Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, can you pull up corners real quick? I just kind of want to get a lay of the land here.
Asante Samuel, Aaron Robinson. J.C. Horn went 16. That's the last corner we picked.
Have you watched Greg Newsome yet, by the way?
No, I haven't.
He's a fun. If he didn't have durability issues, he would physically challenge to be a first round corner.
Not all right.
He's got a ton of length. He's fluid, but he's never played in the full season. So like that's kind of the big red flag on him. But physically speaking, he's super gifted. I did him 2 weeks ago. I really liked his tape.
Okay, all right. Rob said the Jags do love the in-state players.
Can you pull up wide receiver for me, please?
I'm interested to see where this goes. It's only about a 2-hour drive for Sir Tony.
Can you also pull up offensive tackle?
We got Jalen Mayfield, we got Alex Leatherwood, got Eichenberg. Draft Alex Leatherwood to combo the Cam Robinson guard tackle conversation with a guy who's also having the guard tackle conversation.
So Rob wants me to draft Kadarius Toney.
Of course he does. He went to UF.
But here's the thing. I'm going to do another University of Florida player a solid here with this pick.
Okay.
And it's not Kadarius Toney. They got Jawan Taylor at right tackle.
They do.
I think Jawan Taylor is physically capable of playing left tackle, and Cam Robinson is entering free agency.
Okay. I'll follow you.
I'm looking at Jalen Mayfield here.
All right.
University of Michigan. He's
got
athletic. He's much less rigid than what Cam Robinson was coming out. And that was kind of the book. And Jawan, you watched Jawan Taylor when he was at Florida, and they got these perimeter screens that he's getting there outside the hashes and the numbers, and he's blowing people up, right? Mm-hmm. He's got phenomenal range, and he makes these good in-space adjustments. And, technically speaking, his pass sets, he's still polishing his pass sets. But you knew that was going to be the case coming in. Mayfield, I watch his tape, and I look at his athletic profile, and he gives me a little bit. And I hate when people do this on the television broadcasts. And they did it a bunch this past week in Mobile.
But you're going to do it right now.
But I'm going to do it right now. He gives me a little bit of a Jedrick Wills vibe with his style of play, his functional athleticism, how light his feet are for the build that he has. I think Jalen Mayfield would be a great pick here to give Juwan Taylor and Jalen Mayfield your new bookend tackles to work with Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville has pick 33 just around the river bend that they're going to be able to draw upon if they want to add a skill player. I like my odds on getting somebody that I like there at 33. And they have some pieces between Chark and Dede Westbrook. And if they bring back Keelan Cole, they got Laviska Shenault. Thank you very much. They've got some options with the skill group. I want to get the best possible offensive line around Trevor Lawrence. So give me Jalen Mayfield to get plugged into right tackle, and we're going to move Juwan Taylor to left tackle.
Listen, I love saying he reminds me a little bit of this guy because it's like throwing out a player comp and you get all the traction, and then at the end you can go just a little,
just a little.
Wasn't a comp. Love it. That's a savvy. That is a savvy draft long scout. Enough now.
We figured this out.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we got the Cleveland Browns up at number 26. Rob's probably screaming at us that we got to hurry it up, which you probably do. But Owusu-Koramoah is very fun here. Zayvon Collins could also be fun here.
Koramoah's gone.
No, I know. Sorry, Koramoah. I forgot to say that Koramoah is long gone, so that's not an option for them. I think that this would be an ideal pick. Joseph Osai is still here. Let me see edge rushers real quick, Rob.
Can I give you a warning?
Yes.
I gave them Osai because I think it's a home run as well.
Cleveland
Browns fans do not want a 245-pound edge rusher. Now, you could say, don't boo. I don't care.
Right.
But I got a lot of kickback on a 245-pound edge rusher.
Well, I think that this for me would be either Zayvon Collins, Jalen Phillips, or Azeez Ojulari, even before it would be Osai.
Oh, okay.
So those are the three guys that I am thinking of here. They do need, I got some people in the chat obviously saying they need interior linebacker. Maybe it's the Madden kid in me. Like I love being able to pair Myles Garrett. That's who it is. I don't know why I brain farted there. Myles Garrett, one of the best football players on the planet. Just couldn't remember his name on one side, and then getting like Jalen Phillips on the other, Azeez Ojulari on the other, because you're guaranteeing somebody's not going to be able to be doubled, especially if your interior is pretty strong.
Right.
But I do think that they need probably inside linebacker more. I'll go Zayvon Collins. I'm going to go Zayvon Collins here. How about all right, so they don't want a 245-pound edge rusher. How about like a 245-pound just inside linebacker? I feel like that's a good trade-off. How much does Collins weigh? How much do we have Collins weighing?
I'm pretty sure he's 265.
Holy cow. Yeah. I undersold him by like 15 pounds.
He's like what the Lions wanted Jelani Tavai to be when they drafted him in the top 50.
Yeah.
Like, that's Zayvon Collins.
Yeah, it's Zayvon. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse it there, Rob. We're going Zayvon Collins. Beef. Pure beef. Pure
Baltimore.
Michigan.
Baltimore. Rob, can you pull up tight ends for me? I think the biggest thing that hurt Baltimore's offense was they let Hayden Hurst go.
Yep.
They really didn't have a replacement for him other than Nick Boyle, and then Nick Boyle got hurt.
Right.
So, Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, Tommy Tremble, Hunter Long had a nice week here at the Senior Bowl. Kenny Abo, I thought, had better tape than he had performance at the Senior Bowl. Trey McKitty is talented, but had like 6 catches this year. Okay, so it's not going to be a tight end. Can you pull up interior offensive line for me, please?
I think you got everybody. Wyatt Davis, Landon Dickerson, Trey Smith. God, Landon Dickerson is just the most Ravens player of all time.
He is, but he's got the knee issue right now. I don't think they have to go. I don't think they would need to go that direction here at 27.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Banks, by the way, who's down there, he's not in consideration here in the first round at all, but he had a great week this past week as well in Mobile. Really enjoyed watching him play. Okay, so how about edge group? I know I'm going to get somebody I like in the edge group.
Rob.
Thank you.
Frozen there.
Asai, Phillips, Ojulari, Owe.
Osai just feels like a Ravens player.
He does. And
I say that way too much. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. It's provocative.
Good football players, because that's kind of their thing.
I guess, yeah.
So obviously they have 2 edge defenders on the franchise tag between Yannick Ngakoue and Matt Judon. I don't think they'll bring them both back. They got Jalen Ferguson. Asai's a very different kind of player. There's a part of me that's drawn to Jalen Phillips because of his size, and I think he's probably a little bit of a better run defender at 258 versus Asai, who's closer to 245, or at least he was listed on the Texas depth chart as closer to 245. But I think Asai has the motor. I think they've shown with embracing Yannick Ngakoue that they're not afraid of a little bit of a smaller edge. So give me Joseph Asai at Baltimore. This is what they do. They let the board fall to them and just draft good football players every year. And we're stunned that it happens remember when they took J.K. Dobbins at 55 and everyone was like stunned? They're like, how could this happen?
Yes.
And it's because it's Baltimore and it happens every year. Remember when they drafted Patrick Queen, who did not have the best rookie season, but like Jordan Brooks went in front of him and everybody lost their minds, right? So how could this happen? It's Baltimore. They do it every year.
They do. No, I'm not going to disagree with you there. New Orleans Saints. I often have a lot of fun with this pick because it's, with both New Orleans and Kansas City, I just think of what pick would piss off the rest of the league more. But New Orleans is a very interesting situation, right? Because no Breeze. What are you going to commit to Taysom Hill? I mean, I'd like to get another wide receiver.
I don't envy you for having this pick.
No, I know. I mean, it just all depends what they do. They're what, like $100 million over the cap right now?
Correct.
They've got to do just some insane hoops that they
Everybody's
got to
get restructured, and everybody who's in there with contract here is like, got to go. That's just like the way it's set up.
I'll go Nick Bolton because I love Nick Bolton, and I think that linebacker is going to be a big need for them no matter what, because I think that that's an obvious area where they can cut some cap fat. But yeah, I'll go with Nick Bolton, but I'm just truly saying I have no idea what's going to happen here with the New Orleans Saints because they have so many different moves that they have to make because they dug that trench so far for the Breeze winning window, and here it is. Now it's done.
All right, so Green Bay at 29. I'm sitting here staring at what feels like an obvious pick. What do Green Bay wide receivers look like? They're all like 6'2", 6'3".
Outside of Valdez Scantling, but yeah.
They all win vertically down the field.
Right, yes.
They're all big-bodied guys.
Right, yes.
But we saw in the NFC Championship game, there were a number of drops in there that really, and I know Green Bay has not drafted wide receivers in the first round, and it would be a tendency breaker to go that route here, 29. I get it. But you got Terrence Marshall Jr. on the board, who's like 6'3", 205, 210, whatever he is. And he is a really good down-the-field pass catcher for an offense that appears to be set up to begin this transition. Aaron Jones is a free agent. We don't know if he's going to be back, but they have A.J. Dillon. Robert Tonyan came on as a tight end in the passing game who was really, really productive. Obviously, Devontae Adams. You just need more to push the ball down the field, continue pressuring the ball down the field to generate those two high safety looks so that you can give the ball to A.J. Dillon and just ram the ball down people's throats. I have to take Terrence Marshall with him being on the board here because his build, his style of winning is so in line with what Green Bay offensively does.
I hear you. I bet they wish so badly they could pick a corner, but we don't have one that.
I don't love it. I don't love it.
That you don't want to force it. You want to make your team better in whatever way you can when you're on the clock. And so I don't know if corner is that way for Green Bay. And so it makes it exciting. You know, you get to throw Terrace Marshall in there with, like you said, Tunyon and Adams and Lazard, who I think has had a really nice last 2 years, and Valdez-Scantling as well. And you've got some nice running back pieces. You've still got a good offensive line group, although you might need to upgrade offensive line a little bit. So I think that could be on the table. But Terrace Marshall, a lot of fun. So until we know that, I think that's a good pick. Rob said Equiminius St. Brown. Okay, thank you for reminding us that Equiminius St. Brown is still on the team. Buffalo Bills, 30. Another really great landing spot for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who is no longer on the board.
Hate to see it. That's why the Raiders took him. They knew he was going to be in high demand here in the late 20s.
Yeah, so why not take him early? Make him your guy. Oh, Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari. I think that's where I'm going right now. Let me see linebacker real quick, Rob. Just like pure linebacker. The off-ball boys. Dylan Moses, Chester Rat.
Yeah, if they could find somebody they would love, it'd be huge because I know that what's his name's a free agent coming up. Not Tremaine Edmonds. Matt Milano is a free agent coming out. He's going to get paid because he's a really good space linebacker for them. And those dudes inevitably get paid. And I don't think Buffalo will bring him back for the cost that it's going to be. But
I think Jabril Cox is really good for that role, but not at 30. I don't know if I don't think they're picking him at 30. You could overdraft him I don't know about overdraft him, but you could look at him in the second round, and that could be a good second round pick for Buffalo. Give me edge. Let me see edge. Yeah, I'm going to go Jalen Phillips. Give me Jalen Phillips. Give me the high upside. Give me the consensus 5-star player. Let's build around him. I'm going to go him at 30.
Okay, Trevor, you leaned into me at 18 for the Dolphins, so I'm going to lean into you here at 31.
All right.
Our resident Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. And just for the record, give you the same equal treatment that I gave both Joe and Chris Schubert on Draft Dudes last Thursday night when we talked about like seeing your friends' teams win. I hope Tampa loses because I don't want you to experience that for yourself because I haven't even experienced a playoff win. My team won 10 games. They couldn't even make the playoffs this year. So want to get that out of the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But with this pick here at 31, Tampa team who's obviously in a win now window. Tom Brady, Bruce Arians said he's going to be back. He's going for 2, which was such a badass way to say it, right?
Yeah.
Is it like, and Dominic Seuss feels like an obvious departure in free agency based on the cap situation, but they also have other guys up again, both edge rushers, Pierre Paul and Shaq Barrett, potential expiring free agents. You got Chris Godwin, a potential expiring free agent. You have Levante David, a potential expiring free agent. So like, how do you expect they'll handle those? And what do you think is going to be one of the more pressing issues for the team come April?
Yeah, they're in a very interesting spot because they made it as far as they did, right? And so they have kind of these veteran pieces who are making a decent amount of money who, they've put themselves in a situation to be pretty flexible with the cap to where they can bring a lot of these guys back. But, for someone like Ndamukong Suh, where you could go, okay, this guy's probably moving on. He's not going to make close to $10 million like he is this year. Ndamukong Suh could be like, hey, either they're winning a Super Bowl and wants to defend it, or maybe it's they got close, they got to the Super Bowl, and they think they could go again, especially if Tom Brady is returning, which he is. And so Ndamukong Suh could be like, pay me $4 million this year, and I'll come back and I'll play again. And Donovan Smith has played better this year than he has in his entire career. And so at the beginning of the year, it was like, okay, Donovan Smith's either cut or they're restructuring his contract. Well, now all of a sudden he's the left tackle of a team who's going to the Super Bowl with one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. So like, I don't know if he's going to get restructured. I don't know if it's going to be that easy. At the same time, I don't think that this team moves on from Shaq Barrett or Chris Godwin. I really don't think that they're going anywhere. If anything, I think that they're going to save money maybe through Donovan Smith, either restructuring or extending his deal to get the money moved around a little bit different. I think that they're going to get Ndamukong Suh, if he comes back at all, to be on a lower price tag. But it gets interesting too, because I don't think Godwin's going anywhere. Mike Evans is still there. Antonio Brown said he still wants to come back. And I can't imagine Antonio Brown at this point in his career wants to go to a different situation to start over. You know what I'm saying? Like Antonio has kind of like made his money. He made his fame in Pittsburgh. He made his money with Oakland. And so I don't think Antonio is going to want to go anywhere. Like, I think that they might get Antonio Brown for like a couple $1 million to come back. I just think that him and Gronkowski there, all of that to say, a lot of flexibility with what could happen with Tampa. I think interior defensive line, like I have looked at Jay Tufele a lot, and the idea of like drafting Tufele at the back end of the first round this year, having him to play with Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea this year and then take over for Ndamukong Suh the year after, and you got Vita Vea and Jape Tufele sitting there on the inside, that's a super strong possibility to me. Edge rusher is as well, but Barrett's been playing so well down the stretch, and Jason Pierre-Paul seems like he literally doesn't age to where I don't know if like another edge rusher would even get a lot of snaps in that you would want over the next 2 years for a guy who could replace it. And so that's really where my mind often goes to: interior defensive line or offensive tackle, depending on how you view Donovan Smith. So that's the ballpark of what I would do with their stuff.
Okay, Rob, can you pull up IDLs for me, please? Correct me if I'm wrong, but neither one of us have picked anybody. We picked somebody?
No, nope. Barmore, Onwuzurike, Tufele, all these guys are still here.
How would Onwuzurike fit in that front? I know he's like 290. He just weighed in at the Senior Bowl at 290. He had an amazing week, or an amazing practice on Tuesday, and then pretty much called it a week and said, yeah, okay, I showed you exactly who I can be.
Right. Well, I think that he would fit in there because Vea plays so strong in the middle. Like he plays so strong as a 0 and a 1 that you could almost get away with a lot of different types of guys playing at 4 eyes or 3 tech or anything, or shading one way or the other. So, I mean, I think that this could be an interesting fit. I will also tell you that Jason Light certainly loves his Washington football pipeline players. He's always got an eye out on the Washington program guys. And so I think that this is an actual realistic fit that they might be looking at as well.
Drop it. That's the pick. I think he really helped himself down at Senior Bowl he gave Creed Humphrey fits during that Tuesday practice.
Love it.
So, and that was after taking the year off and kind of reaffirming that I'm a dude. So don't overlook me. So that I think I'm glad we got at least one Senior Bowl riser into the first round.
Okay, good. Perfect. Kansas City Chiefs, final pick of the first round. Last pick that we're doing here. The pick is going to be Kadarius Toney because I just want to piss off the rest. Again, like it's the same thing with the Chiefs. I'm just trying to piss everybody off. However, I will say that I believe it was Ben Solak who brought this to my attention. Them drafting Pat Freiermuth and just having both Pat Freiermuth and Travis Kelce again, like you picture that, right? And you just go like, no. Like we can't let them do that. And so like that's another pick at the back end of the first round where if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and I'm just trying to piss everybody off, I think that makes a lot of sense. Of course, Toney makes sense as well because they're probably losing DeMarcus Robinson. They're probably losing Sammy Watkins. And so it's like you got Tyreek Hill, but you'd also have Kadarius Toney and then Mecole Hardman there as well. So I think it's an offensive pick and they're just going to continue to make strength stronger. Kyle, my man, that was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but I had a blast the entire time. That was a lot of fun, man. Likewise. I appreciate you hopping on with me.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And obviously we talked about some of the fallout from the Matt Stafford trade, and we made the opportunity to get a Deshaun Watson deal in there and talk about some of the dynamics of what that could look like. So this offseason is going to shift the landscape quite a bit.
No doubt.
And to kind of go through, Mobile is always a big event, but this year more so than other years, in which this is probably the only chance that we're going to get to have all 32 decision makers in the same place.
Yeah.
And, everybody talks about the combine and as important as combine is for on the field testing, the combine is important because you got all the decision makers from all the teams. They get together and they talk business before the start of the league year.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these things that we talked about start to materialize, like the Matt Stafford, Jared Goff deal, a little bit quicker because we're on the heels of the only event in which people are going to have a chance to get together and talk business. So I'm glad we took the chance to kind of address some of those issues when we did the mock today.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Draft day deals, the longer I do this, the more that I learn that draft day deals and a lot of these big deals, they happen in Mobile and they happen in Indianapolis. And we don't get the combine the way that we normally do this year. And so a lot of those conversations will have happened over the last week. And so I agree with you. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun from here on out. That was a lot of fun running through that first mock draft post Senior Bowl. We went a little long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You guys were very active in the chat as always, which we really appreciate. Our next live mock draft series is going to be on Thursday night. We're going to have a brand new guest. I'll see you guys then.